It premiered in the spring of 1977. It became the highest-rated mid-season show in network television history. And for 8 seasons, Three's Company made America laugh harder than almost anything else on the air. But that was nearly 50 years ago. Since the cameras stopped rolling, some of these beloved cast members built extraordinary second lives. Others disappeared from Hollywood entirely, finding purpose far away from any spotlight. And some are no longer with us. Not 1, not 2, but 6 of the most iconic faces from Three's Company are now gone. Tonight, we remember all of them, the triumphs, the heartbreaks, and the lives you never knew about. Joyce DeWitt was the steady heartbeat of Three's Company. While her roommates grabbed the headlines, Janet Wood was the one holding everything together, sharp, quick-witted, and grounded in a way that gave the chaos around her a real human center. She appeared in every single one of the show's 171 episodes, delivering some of the most precise comic timing on television. Critics consistently called her the most underrated performer in the cast. She battled producers who wanted her to go blonde. She refused, and that stubborn sense of self would define her for the next 4 decades. When Three's Company ended in 1984, DeWitt surprised everyone by walking away from Hollywood entirely. She had a world to see. She traveled extensively, eventually settling in Santa Fe, New Mexico, spending years in what she described as her "what's it all about" healthy stage. She returned to the stage in the early 1990s, performing in regional theater productions across North America. Television appearances remained sparse: Sybil, Living Single, occasional independent films. Then came 2009 and a public stumble. DeWitt was arrested for drunk driving in El Segundo, California. She pleaded no contest, entered a 9-month alcohol program, and moved forward quietly. Her most recent film role came in 2022's independent feature Ask Me to Dance. At 76 in 2026, she remains the last surviving member of the original trio, still appearing at fan conventions and regional theater, carrying the legacy of Three's Company with characteristic quiet dignity. While Janet Wood was the anchor of the apartment, Jack's best friend across the hall had a story just as rich, and a war story that would leave your jaw on the floor. Richard Klein gave Larry Dallas everything: the swagger, the gold chain, the barely buttoned shirt, and the absolute certainty that another bad idea was just around the corner. Larry was Jack Tripper's fast-talking used car salesman best friend, the man who could make a simple misunderstanding catastrophic in under 60 seconds. Klein appeared in 110 episodes across the full run of Three's Company, and holds the distinction of being the only actor besides John Ritter to appear in all 3 related series: Three's Company, The Ropers, and Three's a Crowd. What viewers at home never knew was that Richard Klein had lived a genuinely extraordinary life before landing in that Santa Monica apartment building. A Vietnam War veteran, he served as a lieutenant in the United States Army, and while stationed overseas, was actually struck by lightning during a severe thunderstorm. He survived. He came home. He earned a Master of Fine Arts degree in theater from Northwestern University and built a stage career before television ever found him. After Three's Company, Klein transitioned into an impressive and varied career. He made his Broadway debut in City of Angels in 1989, and in 2010 played the Wizard in the national tour of Wicked. He has continued teaching, performing in regional theater, and making fan appearances. His most recent screen credit came in the 2025 TV movie Jimmy's and Jenny's, at 81 years old in 2026. Richard Klein is sharp, active, and still one of the most engaging personalities the show ever produced. Larry Dallas always had an eye for the ladies, but the next woman to join our story had a far more complicated relationship with the show that made her famous. Priscilla Barnes joined Three's Company in Season 6 as Terry Alden, the warm, witty nurse who became Jack and Janet's final roommate. She stayed through the series finale in 1984, appearing in 70 episodes. Fate had a darkly comic sense of symmetry here. Barnes had originally auditioned for the role of Chrissy Snow back in 1976, losing the part to Suzanne Somers. 5 years later, she was handed the keys to the apartment that Somers had been forced to vacate. Many fans consider Terry the most naturally charming of all 3 female leads. Behind the scenes, however, it was far from charmed. In a candid 1998 interview for True Hollywood Story, Barnes called Three's Company the 3 worst years of her life. describing tension among cast members and revealing she had actually petitioned the producers to release her from the contract. They declined. She stayed, and still, through it all, she and Joyce DeWitt formed one of the deepest friendships the show ever produced. After the show, Barnes built a diverse and fearless film resume. She played a Bond girl in 1989's License to Kill. She appeared in Kevin Smith's cult classic Mallrats in 1995. Rob Zombie cast her in The Devil's Rejects in 2005, a role no one expected. From 2014 to 2019, she played a recurring role on the CW drama Jane the Virgin. She has stepped back from acting since 2019 and is married to actor Ted Monty. Priscilla's Terry was brought in as the permanent solution after a brief stormy transition. That transition had a face and a story of her own. Before Jenna Lee Harrison ever stepped in front of a camera, she was on the sidelines of an NFL stadium, cheering for the Los Angeles Rams. That was the only resume she carried into one of the most watched sitcoms on American television. When Suzanne Somers walked off the Three's Company, set in 1980 amid a brutal salary dispute, producers needed a replacement fast. Harrison, with virtually no acting experience, was handed the role of Cindy Snow, Chrissy's sweet, endearingly clumsy cousin. She appeared in 32 episodes across seasons 5 and 6. Her physical comedy, developed in real time working alongside John Ritter, was surprisingly natural. She was likable and improving by the episode. But at 22, some of the show's layered adult humor was clearly a stretch, and the writers eventually moved her on. Priscilla Barnes's Terry Alden stepped in, and Cindy Snow quietly disappeared from the Santa Monica apartment for good. Harrison's post-Three's Company career had genuine momentum. She landed a substantial role as Jamie Ewing Barnes on Dallas, appearing in 69 episodes from 1984 to 1986. She continued working through the 1990s, with her final acting credit in the 2002 TV movie The Power. After that, she stepped away from show business entirely and never looked back. Today, at 67, she lives a full and private life centered on real estate investing, competitive car racing, and passionate animal advocacy. She attended the show's 40th anniversary reunion in 2017 and seemed completely at peace. The show's rotating doors brought extraordinary people in and out over 8 seasons, but some of the most unforgettable were never meant to stay, including one Tony Award-winning actress who left on her own terms. Anne Wedgeworth was the most formally decorated actress ever to join the Three's Company cast. Though you might not have guessed it from the role she played, she had starred opposite Gene Hackman in Scarecrow and Robert De Niro in Bang the Drum Slowly, both in 1973. She had earned the Tony Award for Best Featured Actress in a play for Neil Simon's Chapter 2 in 1978. She was a member of the prestigious Actors Studio, and yet in 1979, she joined Season 4 as Lana Shields, a 3-times divorced neighbor who pursued Jack Tripper with cheerful, shameless determination. The character had real promise, but behind the scenes, the role was being slowly starved. Her part shrank, her lines disappeared, and after just 11 episodes, Lana vanished from the show without a single word of explanation written into the story. Wedgeworth later revealed she had asked to be released. She wasn't fired. She simply refused to continue being erased. She left and never slowed down. She played Patsy Cline's mother opposite Jessica Lange in Sweet Dreams in 1985. She had a role in Steel Magnolias in 1989. She co-starred with Burt Reynolds in Evening Shade from 1990 to 1994. Her final screen credit was the 2006 drama The Hawk is Dying. On November 16, 2017, Anne Wedgeworth passed away after a long illness at a nursing home in North Bergen, New Jersey. She was 83 years old and one of the finest character actresses her generation ever produced. The Ropers had left the building in 1979, heading off to their own spin-off. But before we remember how that story ended, we have to start with the man who made their double act possible. Norman Fell didn't just play Stanley Roper, he inhabited him completely. The perpetually suspicious, endlessly grumpy landlord of the Hacienda Palms apartments became one of the great comic foil characters in sitcom history. Fell brought to the role a career that stretched back to the early 1950s. Over 150 film and television appearances, a dramatic Emmy nomination for the miniseries Rich Man, Poor Man, and a supporting role in the original 1960 Ocean's 11 with Frank Sinatra. His work on Three's Company earned him the Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor in a TV series in 1979. Every scene he shared with Audra Lindley crackled with chemistry. Fell reportedly never wanted to do the spin-off The Ropers. It was Lindley who convinced him. He agreed for her. The show lasted one season before ABC canceled it. He returned for a brief season 5 guest stint on Three's Company and made his final appearance as Mr. Roper in a 1997 cameo on Ellen. He once said in an interview that he couldn't walk down the street without strangers calling out, "Hey, Mr. Roper." He had earned every bit of that. Then came the diagnosis: bone marrow cancer. The illness moved with terrible speed. Norman Fell died in Woodland Hills, California, on December 14, 1998, less than 3 weeks after learning he was sick. He was 74 years old. The man who spent 7 seasons being suspicious of everyone left this world far too quickly and with far too little warning. His partner in that iconic landlord duo faced a different kind of heartbreak and said goodbye to the world even before he did. Audra Lindley came to Three's Company with a career that had already spanned 5 extraordinary decades. She had worked as a Hollywood stand-in, done stunt work, signed as a contract player with Warner Bros., and made her Broadway debut back in 1943. When she stepped into Helen Roper's flowing caftan at 58 years old, she was about to create one of the most beloved female characters in American sitcom history. Helen Roper had been written as a sour, gum-smacking landlady with little warmth. Lindley reimagined her completely. A woman desperately craving affection from a husband who never delivered it, wrapped in colorful muumuus and caftans that became as iconic as any costume on television. The love-deprived, quietly optimistic Helen became a cultural touchstone. The chemistry between Lindley and Norman Fell was electric. Together, they took a one-note joke and made it feel genuinely human. She followed Fell into the Roper spin-off in 1979. After that, she continued working consistently for nearly 2 more decades, with a memorable appearance on Sybil in 1997, a project she was still actively filming just 1 month before her death. Audra Lindley passed away on October 16, 1997, from complications of leukemia in Los Angeles, California. She was 79. She once said that Helen Roper would be her immortality. 47 years later, with the Mrs. Roper caftan still selling at costume shops and trending on social media, she was absolutely right. The show needed a new landlord in 1979, and what they got was nothing short of a legend. By the time Don Knotts stepped onto the Three's Company set in 1979, he was already one of the most decorated comedic actors in television history. He had won 5 Emmy Awards for his legendary role on The Andy Griffith Show. He had also become a familiar face in film, starring in beloved comedies like The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. But more than anything, his name had become synonymous with a very specific kind of brilliance, the absolute peak of physical comedy mixed with perfectly timed character work. When John Ritter heard Knotts was joining the cast, the entire ensemble was, in Ritter's own words, absolutely astounded. Ralph Furley, the polyester-clad landlord, who genuinely believed himself to be an irresistible ladies' man, became one of the greatest comic creations of the decade. Knotts remained with Three's Company through its final episode in 1984. After the series ended, he reunited with Andy Griffith for the beloved 1986 TV movie Return to Mayberry, then played a recurring role on Griffith's Matlock from 1988 to 1992. A remarkable late career moment came in 1998, when he played the mysterious TV repairman in the critically acclaimed Pleasantville. He also made a final cameo on 8 Simple Rules in 2002, the last time he and John Ritter ever shared a screen together. When Knotts learned of Ritter's death in 2003, he was on stage in Kansas City performing on Golden Pond. He attended the funeral 4 days later. Don Knotts died on February 24, 2006, from complications related to lung cancer at UCLA Medical Center. He was 81. Andy Griffith said simply, "Don meant everything. Don made the show." There is truly nothing more to add. And now we come to the most heartbreaking chapter of this story. 2 of the show's most iconic stars, lost in the same decade, each leaving an absence that has never been filled. Suzanne Somers arrived on the Three's Company set 1 single day before production began. A last-minute casting decision that changed television history. Her Chrissy Snow was bubbly, sweetly naive, and completely irresistible to audiences. She became the breakout star, magazine covers, massive fan mail, a cultural phenomenon. And then she went to war with the producers, demanding her salary be raised from $30,000 to $150,000 per episode, plus a cut of the show's profits. The studio fired her, the industry turned on her. Fellow cast members were furious. What followed was one of the great second acts in Hollywood history. Somers reinvented herself from the ground up, Las Vegas performer, best-selling author of 25-plus books, the face of the Thigh Master, and one of the most vocal advocates for alternative health treatment in America. She starred in Step by Step from 1991 to 1998, reaching a whole new generation. She danced on Dancing with the Stars in 2015. She reconciled with Joyce DeWitt in 2012 after 31 years of silence. But the body she had fought so hard to protect kept presenting new battles. First diagnosed with breast cancer in 2000, she fought it unconventionally and defiantly for over 2 decades. By 2023, it had returned. On October 15, 2023, one single day before what would have been her 77th birthday, Suzanne Somers passed away peacefully at her Palm Springs home, surrounded by her husband and family. She deserved that peaceful ending. She had earned it many times over. And finally, we come to the man without whom none of this would have existed at all. There was no Three's Company without John Ritter. Jack Tripper, the lovable, accident-prone culinary student who pretended to be gay just to share an apartment with 2 women, became one of the defining comic characters in the history of American television. Ritter won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series in 1984, and the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Television Musical or Comedy that same year. Don Knotts called him the greatest physical comedian on the planet. Lucille Ball said Ritter made her shout cut 3 times in a scene because she simply could not stop laughing. After Three's Company, Ritter built one of the most respected careers in television, Hooperman from 1987 to 1989, the Oscar-winning Sling Blade in 1996, and a Broadway run in Neil Simon's The Dinner Party in 2000 that earned him the Theatre World Award. By 2002, he had found a new home in 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter alongside Kaylee Cuoco, by all accounts at the happiest point of his life. On September 11, 2003, Ritter collapsed during rehearsal on set. Rushed to Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank, the same hospital where he had been born 54 years earlier, he was initially misdiagnosed with a heart attack. The true cause was an aortic dissection, a catastrophic tear in the wall of his aorta. Surgery could not save him. He died that evening, 6 days before his 55th birthday. His widow, Amy Yasbeck, immediately established the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health in his name. His sons Jason and Tyler became actors. His legacy endures in every frame of tape he ever filmed. Television has never quite filled the space he left behind. Three's Company gave us 8 seasons of laughter, 5 decades of memories, and a cast of people who were far more remarkable than any character they ever played. John Ritter, Suzanne Somers, Don Knotts, Norman Fell, Audra Lindley, Ann Wedgeworth. Gone, but none of them forgotten. If this video brought back something you'd been missing, hit that subscribe button, because next time we're stepping into another classic that changed everything. Thank you for being here.